thank you for giving us the time. I think you already talked to my colleague Andrea about your personal story. Now I want to talk to you about your professional story, your career, your business. To put it in perspective to people, how do you go from that personal story that you went through all the struggle to become become somebody really successful on the tax business, on the financial business throughout the country? How do you, where did you see that conversion within the story?
It's been just compound interest daily, making a better decision daily where 14-year-old me looks around and says, I don't like where my life's at today. What am I gonna do to start changing it? And I just started investing in school. I crammed 4 years of high school into 18 months. So that 2-year incarceration period, I applied myself. I read books. I ended up graduating 1 year early. I was supposed to be class of 06. I graduated 05 with my high school diploma. And I completed 3 community college classes through Lookout Mountain, through Red Rocks Community College. So that was the starting point for my accounting path. I didn't go back to school right away, but it was more of, okay, I need to, transition out. Family dynamics are still what they are, but every day I decide to make a better decision. Say, okay, I'm gonna go back to school, I'm gonna do this. But going from sitting isolated to opportunity every day, like I could get out the house, I can go read a book, I can go to the library. I felt like I was just like unleashed into a world full of opportunity when I came out of Lookout Mountain, and I just have never slowed down since. I feel like an idle mind is a waste of time. And now I completed community college, and tax guy was sick at the time. So I said, okay, I need to figure out how to do my own taxes. Said, maybe I can make some side money was the initial thought. Hustler mentality again, go from young me to, okay, I could do 10, 15, 20 tax returns, make a couple grand was the original thought. Went from, 25 to 50 to 100 clients to, 13 years later, now I'm operating in multi-states with staff. So with that, it has just been a continuous learning curve, though. It's not like I woke up and was the best tax expert in the country. I don't even think I'm the best now. If you ask me personally, I'm just getting attention because I think want to do a good job. But I think the piece that separates me from I think others is I'm just learning every day.
And the fact that you're also in so many magazine covers. It's like, how did that hit about? Like your friends and your family, it's like, oh my God, you're in Forbes, you're in Hollywood Reporter. It's like, how did that come about? Like, how do your family took that when they saw it?
I don't think any of them acknowledge it to this point, to be honest. I think it's still kind of surreal, the attention that I've gotten. I mean, I'll scroll down my Instagram every now and then and be like, oh, that's cool, I forgot I did that, or, but I'm still the same me, so it may look different for someone else looking in, but I'm just the kind of person where it's like I accomplished that today, it gets kind of shoved to the back of the bookcase and move on to the next goal. So I think it's cool to have the accolades, but it's not what I'm working towards.
What keeps you grounded in terms of like the business, going all the things and like magazine covers and the interviews and all that? What keeps you grounded?
God, faith, my son. I think, I get so busy to the point where sometimes I feel like I need more family time. And so I try to take a step back and say, okay, I know I'm working towards this stuff that is what I call my passion projects. But at the end of the day, it's that accounting metric, we got to have balance. There's family time, there's business, and somewhere in between we have to meet. But I would say prayer keeps me grounded.
And how tough is that the first 3 months of the year?
It's brutal. I mean, honestly, it's a lot of 12, 14-hour days. I've invested, I think, in expanding the team this last year is a little better than last year. So it's more of same thing, learning as I go, teaching myself to delegate more and trusting the resources that I'm putting in place to get stuff done. Like this year, I was on the road for a award show. Some mistakes had happened. Client's very upset, leaves me a Google review. And I'm like, distraught reading it on the plane ride home, and I'm like, I want to be a hands-on person and touch everything, but it's not possible as you scale. So that's a little example of like learning as I go. Reached out to the client, explained, hey, I'm on the road. I'm great at what I do. You know, she took it very personal that I didn't touch the return, and I think that's something where it reminds me to like take a step back, make sure the quality of the work is great, but also it's a learning curve for me to be a better coach to the team, to say, hey, attention to detail is important.
And we talked about, like, off camera, that the fact that a lot of people like you and other entrepreneurs and people that have done really well in business, they failed. You know, sometimes people see it like, oh, well, I failed once and that's the end of it. But the majority of the guys like you and some other entrepreneurs and business people, they do fail several times in order to make it. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that process, if you went through a couple of steps like that to get where you are?
I don't think anyone successful just leaps there. I think some of the most successful people have the ugliest stories,
Yes.
in my opinion. I get to meet a lot of people who make a lot of money, but some of them aren't necessarily happy, you know, or you try to mask something in general. But I think to kind of stay on I don't know. I mean, it's been trials and tribulations nonstop for me. So when you ask me to go work and make money, it's like, oh, it's a no-brainer, you know, where like when you experience some of the life losses that I had, like, you know, like I think we had talked about earlier, being on the front page of a newspaper at age 14 across the state for being the next school shooter, whatever they wanted to label me in that moment, that was as humiliating as it gets. Yeah. And now you ask me to go build a business and get paid for it, that's a walk in the park.
I think hearing the story, it takes people to a different place in terms of how they see business. There's all kinds of different businesses, all kinds of entrepreneurs. There are those that put the time, the effort, and there are those that believe that that it needs to come to them. You know, you talked about God, you talked about faith. How much of that comes into play?
You know, that's one thing my dad, he always kept me in church. Even when we didn't see eye to eye, it felt like a chore at the time, but he would take me to church on Friday and Sunday. And it didn't resonate in the moment, but I was hearing the message. You know, I've had great people around me where, you know, 10 years of silence listening to the message, the faith was rooted deeply. But I didn't act on those thoughts. I was still wanted to entertain my life. Even to this day, where nobody's perfect. I still do stuff that makes me feel good today, and then I think about it tomorrow, and I'm like, why did I do that? You know, why did I say that? Like, why did I argue with this person?
If I talk to your staff, what would they say about you?
I think they would say I care. I want them to grow. I think. They say I outwork anybody in the room, and I show up and I lead by example, and I don't ask them to do anything I wouldn't do myself.
I think that's key, because it comes to the factor of leadership. How do you see leadership? What will be your definition of leadership? There's people that say, well, I'm a leader because I do work many hours more than my staff does. It's like, how do you see leadership?
Leadership to me is who you are when no one's around. Integrity. Because anybody can get in front of a camera and portray an image, but who are you when you go home and the door's closed and no one's around? And you know, what kind of parent are you? What kind of friend are you when someone needs you? You know, do you stop and say hi to the person on the curb, or do you walk past because I make more money than you?
Do you remember of your story in your business? Like, what was that moment in your business that you went from Manny doing the taxes to this Manny that we know today? Because there's always that moment in time that pushed you to that level. Do you remember what did that to you?
I don't think I've really achieved anything yet. Because you say, the Manny you know today, I think, but that's what we touched on a minute ago, where the outside looking in, you guys maybe see something's been accomplished. For me, I'm still learning as I go. I'm still building, I'm still growing. I'm still trying to understand, how do I lay the foundation to expand the tax business nationwide. So this isn't some blueprint that I've mastered yet. It's me applying myself on a daily basis to be a better person tomorrow than I am today. That's
And it just become
the
organic.
compound interest. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
be better tomorrow than I am today, and I'm gonna look up in 5 years and I'm gonna be a lot farther along.
What would you like other business to see within your business that they can actually copy and say, look, Manny's doing this that I think that is really good, not only from the business perspective, but also for the community?
I think the approach is to get with like-minded people, support them, the bookkeeping, accounting, understand that we all have traits and skills that we're all naturally good at. You know, if you're a great news reporter, I'm good at numbers, like let me focus on the numbers, you focus on the news. You know, I think I said this a while back, you know, if I want to learn how to push a broom, I'm gonna go find the janitor.
Yeah.
So there's just little stuff like that where don't be afraid to utilize each other as resources. I think what they can implement in their business is, one, let me focus on what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I'm very good with numbers. I'm a natural bookkeeper. I just apply myself. I'm good at what I do, and I think my team is great at what they do as well. But the community impact that's the passion project is okay, if I go make $1 million, that's great, but what are we gonna leave to the world outside of what's in the bank?
Exactly.
And that's why I look at my son, he's 5, and I don't wanna leave him a legacy of ignorance. I want him to understand you could be whatever you want, doesn't matter where you start, and you're gonna accelerate a lot faster because you have my support now.
Yeah. Where do you see Dad Tax Services, your business, within the next 5 years? What do you see?
I want to position myself as one of the leading names in the country, expand outside of just tax prep services, offer year-round bookkeeping, advisory support, accounting, you know, maybe take this thing from a 2, 3, 4-man team to, you know, a full-on firm that can support hundreds of accounts. With that comes, you know, either partnerships, investments, position myself as an author. I love to read and write. So I have a book coming out in a couple of months, and continue to do the speaking engagements that I've been on to educate the youth and make an impact in underserved communities. You know, there's people who need support and they need an example of it can be done because I did it.
Yeah. Before we go, I wanted to ask you about that book. I know that is coming out. It's really important. Talk to us a little bit about that book.
So I've been working on this a little over a year. This is something that I started just in that isolation again, going through my personal struggles, sitting in the house, hallway full of my son's pictures, and I said, okay, what do I want to do with my life? You know, it's just me and him now. It was the thought process in that moment, and so I started writing, just simple back the stuff, and I said, okay, I never wrote a book before. Went and hired a book coach. You know, did my research. I'm always doing my homework, and so it's a mixture of my personal story. First third of the book is about the stuff we talked on, you know, going through that situation, my young childhood, my feelings at the moment towards my family. I touched in a lot more detail. Going through the isolation, the humiliation of the state of Colorado. For my decisions, that's, you know, never no justification, how it felt in those moments. And then the last third of the book is positioning myself where I'm at today, how I got here. What was the thought process from delivering wholesale flowers for 8 years to community college to a couple accounting degrees to an honorary doctorate to now 30, 40 magazine covers, which is great, but the book is just a really deep internal reflection of all this stuff I carried for years, and that's my legacy to leave to the world.
And with that, I think we're going to leave the people out there just thinking, what a story, what a wonderful story. Manny, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming to Houston, to taking the time to talk to us about your personal life, your business. It's an incredible story. And I think, and I'll tell people, you know, not only read the book, but read about you. Look, you know, we go through life thinking, how are we going to become a better person? What better story and what better example than what you have achieved? I think that's an amazing. I congratulate you, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.